Pope Francis ratified the final document on the 2024 Synod on Synodality on Sunday. Try saying that 5 times fast. So what happens next? Here to report, senior correspondent for the National Catholic Register, Edward Pentin. Ed, welcome back. You were in
Thanks,
Rome
Raymond.
for the tail end of this synod. As I mentioned, the Pope ratified this final document, and I guess he's going to let it stand without issuing a customary apostolic exhortation, his own summary, his own teaching of what happened here. What does that indicate in your estimation?
Well, there are various theories about that, Raymond. I think part of it is that he thinks enough has been said on this, that he feels that he doesn't really have anything to add. He doesn't want to put anything else, his own signature on it, where he thinks this is a part of the synodal process. And so because it's been discussed, he's going to leave it open. He's going to leave these discussions open and possibly come back to them at some point in the next few years. But he also, I think, wants to hear what these special study groups are going to say. These 10 study groups who are studying these controversial issues, they're going to continue discussions up until June next year, I believe.
Ed, your recent column focused on the African bishops' participation in this synod. What was the nature of their participation, and were their voices sufficiently heard?
Yes, well, they came away very pleased with it. They said, I spoke to Archbishop Nkea, who's a Cameroonian archbishop, and he's on the ordinary council of the synod, which is quite important in terms of organizing it. And he was really very happy with it in the sense that he said the African bishops came prepared. They didn't want, they were very concerned about this decentralization, especially on faith and morals, and they came away feeling quite happy that that was blocked. But there are openings still in the final document towards decentralization, so they're probably going to keep an eye on that.
Ed, speaking of voices, there were a lot of voices at the synod pressers and in these closed-door study groups about deaconesses and LGBT issues and climate, but the voices of tradition and traditional Catholics seem to be very muted during this synod. You had an encounter with Cardinal Jean-Claude Hollerich, who's the Relator General of this synod, and you questioned him about the absence of those traditional voices. What did you learn?
Yes, well, I went up to him at the end of the final press conference, because I just wanted to know why he was talking about the shortage of vocations, as were other participants. And of course, the vocations are being the biggest growth of vocations and church attendance is in the traditional groups. So I wanted to know why those weren't considered. They weren't even mentioned in the press conferences or in the synod. And he just responded saying that, he has friends who celebrate the traditional mass, and he can imagine that in a postmodern world getting attracted by that, and he doesn't condemn it. But then when I pushed him and I said, why weren't their views considered? He just said it wasn't a topic for discussion. He said we weren't against them, nor were we for them. But we discussed things brought up from the people of God. And then he said these people, as he put it, these people have not written to us, which isn't totally true, because I think in the consultation stages, there was a lot of participation from traditional groups. It's just that they got sort of filtered out as the synod went on.
Before I let you go, Ed, Cardinal Angelo Becciu, implicated and convicted in the Vatican financial scandal, gave a recent interview to Belgian TV. There he claims, of all things, that Cardinal George Pell, the late Cardinal Pell, authorized the huge sums of money transferred from the Vatican to Australia. Ed, quickly, what are you hearing about this allegation, and what do you know to be true?
Well, I've heard that it's certainly not true, and because he wouldn't have actually authorized it. It came from the Secretariat of State. It was about Peter's pence, and Cardinal Pell wasn't involved in any of those kind of exchanges or transfers. But also, I know from when I talked to Cardinal Pell, he was very keen to find out more about these transfers of money to Australia,
right?
Which shows that he wouldn't have, if he'd given permission for them, he wouldn't ever have wanted to know more about them. So I think it's just a very it's certainly not true, and also there's a lot of dubious things around this transfer about why they were sent to Australia, what they were for, and of course the suspicion is it was sent to influence the trial against Cardinal Pell, and we don't know that for sure, but that's the suspicion.
Well, Ed, on my show as well, on camera, Cardinal Pell questioned the source of those transfers of monies and the reason they were sent. If he had authorized them, he wouldn't be raising a public specter. He did this repeatedly during many of the last interviews we both did with him. It makes no sense if he was the source of the transfer. But I suppose Beshu thinks dead men tell no tales, but with videotape, they actually can. Edward, we'll leave it there. You can follow Ed's reportage and columns on X at Edward Pentin. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Raymond.